The marble corridor outside the long library still smelled of wax polish and ancient dust when a single red file changed hands at 23:58, and every palace footman suddenly forgot how to breathe. 2 breaths later, the heavy door clicked shut, leaving King Charles III and Prince William alone with a battered ledger, a pot of lamey ink, and a silence thick enough to bend candle flame. Charles broke it first, sliding the ledger across oak worn smooth by George V.'s elbows. He called it the tear-stained book, the running account of the Duchy of Cornwall's fortunes since the 1970s, revenue charts, organic farming experiments, and margin notes about hedgerow biodiversity that only a monarch who talks to saplings would bother to scribble at 4 in the morning. William scanned a page showing £20.048 million in sustainable timber yield, then looked up to find his father studying him the way surgeons study X-rays. That gaze carried a plea without words: protect this. Protect everything I couldn't protect. William swallowed hard. He had spent the afternoon letting Prince Louis splash mud on his tailored chinos so Catherine could nap after chemotherapy. Now he faced the other inheritance, 150,000 acres, half a dozen media landmines, and a father whose blood counts swing like pendulums. Why does any of this matter to a single mother in Manchester, or a pizza courier in Cardiff? Because the duchy owns tenant farms that supply half the organic milk in Sainsbury's, handles renewable energy pilots, shaping national grid policy, and funds youth housing schemes that decide whether Welsh market town thrives or withers. If the succession stumbles, mortgages tick upward, village shops shutter, and Britain's billion-pound green energy bet quivers on the edge. Charles leaned closer, voice a rasp. "Please don't make my mistake," he said, meaning the 3 decades he spent measuring hedges instead of birthday candles. "Enjoy them while you can." William's pulse hammered. No future briefing had prepared him for raw paternal regret. The ledger suddenly seemed less like a balance sheet, more like a confession. Outside, 2 bored household cavalry troopers stiffened when an unmarked Jaguar slid into the courtyard, Archbishop Welby delivering a sealed envelope labeled Operation Sunrise, Schedule Beta. The plan describes a 72-hour timeline from the monarch's last breath to William's televised accession oath, and tonight it awaited one handwritten tweak: whether to mobilize or postpone if Catherine's medical team issued a red alert during those same 72 hours. No wonder the footman muttered that the Windsors have begun practicing coronations the way other families rehearse fire drills. Meanwhile, 4,950 miles east, Prince Harry sipped chrysanthemum tea in a private Beijing dining room festooned with calligraphy praising "Wind over Jade Mountain." Courtiers tracking him by open-source intel claim he pitched Travelist carbon offset data to investors linked to China's sovereign wealth fund, potentially complicating Home Office security guidelines, should he request police protection on British soil. A cabinet aide faxed Windsor at 0:17, potential conflict of interest scenario escalating. William's phone buzzed. He silenced it, but saw the notification. Back in the library, the king unscrewed the ink pot. He asked William to countersign a new empathy capital clause, 5% of annual duchy profits ring-fenced for mental health initiatives in tenant villages, starting 2025. A radical move. Previous charters mention roofs and roads, never feelings. William hesitated, then saw the footnote: "For Catherine, her resilience teaches us all." The pen scratched, lightning flashed outside, or maybe that was just camera bulbs from Paps camped beyond the long walk. Data point: Ipsos May poll shows trust in William at 74%, trust in Charles stable at 61%, but institutional trust in the Crown slipping to 54%. Every communications director knows that when personal likability outruns institutional stability, the monarchy must pivot from pageantry to lived authenticity, or risk the Scottish independence referendum being repeated in Wales, this time with Republican undertones. Cue the cedar prophecy. At 4:07, Charles insisted on a dawn garden walk despite drizzle. They stopped by an Atlantic cedar. He planted the week William was born. Charles told him its twin at Highgrove had just produced an unprecedented cluster of cones, symbol in Anglo-Saxon folklore that a tree senses its steward will soon depart. If nature thinks I'm leaving, perhaps I am, he choked. William placed a hand on the trunk. A BBC drone, illegally hovering, captured the silhouette. Tabloids would later Photoshop it into a meme titled Father Time. But there is intrigue behind every branch. MI5 briefers suspect the cedar cones were chemically induced, a prank by an eco-activist angry at Royal Grousemoors, because soil samples showed elevated gibberellic acid. Palace security opened an investigation named Project Faux Seed. Imagine the optics if the monarch's emotional revelation was triggered by sabotage. Yet William ordered the inquiry sealed. No scandal must taint his father's symbol of legacy. Financial stakes spiral elsewhere. Goldman Sachs analysts circulated a note predicting that if Charles delegated 3 more overseas tours to William before Christmas, the pound could rally 0.4% on transition confidence. Conversely, rumors of emergency regency would shave 1% off UK green bonds. Traders are now reading court circulars like tarot. The king returned indoors to find an antique clock had stopped at 5:12, the exact minute that, according to a leaked NHS memo, his next chemotherapy infusion would be rescheduled if white cell counts dipped. Superstition? Perhaps. Yet his valet quietly wound it forward, defying fate. Dawn headlines exploded. Lightning over Windsor sparks health panic. Palace PR deployed an old tactic, feed the beast sugar. They released a 23-second clip of Charles chuckling with oncology nurses, balancing a teacup atop a therapy dog's head. Twitter melted, #corgicups trended. Distraction achieved, for now. But deeper currents swirl. A retired Lord Chamberlain leaked that Catherine's doctors advised a 6-month retreat from long-haul flights. If so, William's upcoming Oceania tour might require him to bring Princess Charlotte instead, introducing a 10-year-old to global diplomacy earlier than any royal since Victoria lugged sketchbooks across Europe at 13. Courtiers already draft child-friendly briefing notes about coral reef geopolitics. Charles's friend, actress Sophie Winkleman, praised his 4 a.m. letter-writing marathons, yet insiders whisper those letters include instructions to expedite VAT refunds for duchy tenants, potentially controversial amidst cost-of-living crises. Treasury mandarins fear a populist backlash if charity for farmers is perceived as tax avoidance, even if perfectly legal. At 9:30, William convened duchy executives via secure Zoom from the White Drawing Room. He outlined belonging bonds, microshares allowing tenants to own 0.01% of local revenue projects, a democratization that city lawyers call revolutionary, Tory backbenchers call reckless. Rishi Sunak requested a private chat. The call is set for Tuesday. Eavesdroppers might think this all technocratic, but Shakespearean drama lurks. A footman found Charles asleep in his study clutching the cedar's fallen cone like a rosary. When roused, the king murmured, "Tell my mother I've done my best." The footman, descended from a family at Sandringham since 1922, later wept in staff quarters. Word spread. By evening, palace corridors felt like Lent. That night, Catherine video-called William again, children at her side. They asked when they could climb the cedar. William promised soon, then muted and whispered to her, "It may be hours quicker than we dreamed." She smiled, determined despite medication fatigue. The Duchess has started keeping a gratitude journal. Page 1 reads simply, "Bluebells at Lwynwermod." Monday brings trooping the colour rehearsals. Charles insists on riding horseback, despite medical warning. Surgeons fret about catheter lines hidden beneath ceremonial scarlet. If they buckle, millions will witness disaster in real time. The Lord Mayor suggested a carriage. Charles refused. King's ride. William strategizes a fallback. his practice the salute, just in case. Helicopter idles on standby at Sir Michael Lucker's estate, flight plan, coded Regal Swan. Behind the gilded opulence, accountants worry. Catherine's lost work hours cut expected Royal Foundation fundraising by 6%. To plug the gap, William quietly greenlit a Netflix-style documentary on duchy sustainability, on condition that filming halts instantly if the king's health worsens. The contract's kill clause is worth £2 million. Such is the chessboard: health rumors, financial hedging, father-son catharsis under lightning-lit cedars. And somewhere in Beijing, Harry refreshes UK headlines, wondering if a cedar's whisper foretells his own obsolescence. Stay with us. In the next episode, we've obtained portions of the classified Operation Sunrise schedule, discover why an obscure Gloucestershire hamlet has been dubbed Sanctuary Zero for George, Charlotte, and Louis if Westminster crowds turn restless, and why MI6 believes a dormant peerage claim from a 19th-century Canadian line could surface to challenge William's coronation oath. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell, because in a monarchy built on oak and ledger paper, the quietest knocks often shake the throne the hardest.